Hi, I'm Alex and I'm the YouTube newbie. Actually, it's the YouTube newbie 2.0, the YouTube newbie part 2. So anyway, I resurrected this channel mostly because I wanted to do this thing. It's something that I planned back in 2019 and never got around to it because I was, what's the word? 2 words, too lazy. However, life happened and I thought that with everything that happened in 2020, I should stop procrastinating. So I did nothing in 2020 aside from, the usual, like work. I was one of the lucky ones whose inconvenience really was being unable to go outside whenever I wanted to, which, to be honest, wasn't, all that often. In ordinary circumstances, I don't really like going out. But the thought of actually having a lockdown order preventing me from going out, well, that's a whole nother thing. So 2020 was a bust, but I wanted 2021 to be different. However long this pandemic is going to go, I wanted to make better use of my free time. Hence, YouTube Newbie 2.0. On to the show. So I'm doing a series on series where I talk about my favorite book series. Several of my favorite book series. I figured since I read a lot of them, might as well talk about them right here. So let's start with what's currently popular, Bridgerton. So I watched Bridgerton on Netflix the day it came out, January 1, because, I have a life. I'd actually read Julia Quinn's series, all 8 books, and the novellas years ago. So after I watched the first season, I went back and reread the first book in the series, which is the basis for this season, The Duke and I. Just a disclaimer, I'm watching this through the lens of someone who has read historical romance novels almost my entire life. I understand that there are a lot of issues that should or need to be addressed here, like race. However, as I've read the books that this series is based on, I know the period in which it's set. That is to say, the characters are mostly white and mostly straight. It's like the overarching theme of most historical romance novels. With that said, it's not to say that I won't have comments about current issues that we see play out in the series, and also what plays out, today, what has been playing out these days. But I just want to ground this whole thing on my own experience, mostly because that's really my frame of reference. On the race issue, this is a little, my comments are going to be from someone who is a person of color, but has lived all of my entire life in a country, Philippines, where we're really mostly one race. There are a lot of biracial people in my country, but for the most part, our issues are nothing compared to what Black people have experienced and are experiencing everywhere, especially in the US. What I'm saying is, I am aware of Black Lives Matter, and I agree with what they stand for and what they're fighting for. What I'm also saying is that as a person of color who lives in a country with people who have mostly the same skin color as me, I don't have the same issues of representation in the media, at least local media. In our media here, I am very much represented. However, in the US, people of color are in the minority and struggle with representation. I'm saying that now because we're going to come back to that later. Also, most of my comments are going to be from the lens of someone who identifies herself as a decades-long, yes, I'm aware that that ages me, historical romance reader. However, even though I used to be the kind of reader who belongs to the author is dead school of thought, these days one finds it difficult to divorce the author from the work. So I'm going to have to balance the death of the author versus my own thoughts, immediate and otherwise, when it comes to what I read. So we're good? If not, I'll come back to it if you're still here. So, in this first episode of a series on series Bridgerton, I'm going to talk about my impressions regarding the series and then point out the differences between the Netflix Season 1 version and the first book, The Duke and I. So, first impression of the series and some issues. I was pleasantly surprised to see a black man play the Duke of Hastings. In the book, he is described as tall, dark-haired, and with ice blue eyes. Also pleasant surprise, Queen Charlotte, played by a black woman. You see, some historians believe that Queen Charlotte was Britain's first black queen. She was born the youngest daughter of a duke and a princess in the Duchy of Mecklenburg-Strelitz in northern Germany. She married King George III, yes, of Hamilton's You'll Be Back. However, in this timeline set years after that, he's more the madness of King George. Going back, historians are split about this because while some believe they can trace her lineage to the mixed-race branch of the Portuguese royal family, and that the royal physician of her time described her as having a true mulatto face, other historians say that it's never been proven. History says that she might be black or she might not be. In the series, the TV series, she is, and I absolutely had no problem believing from the get-go that the black actress playing her is in fact Queen Charlotte. Some people actually point out the casting of black people in the series, not just the Duke and the Queen, but others as well, like Lady Danbury, the late Duke, and the current Duke's sparring partner, Will Mondrich, as race baiting. Merriam-Webster defines race baiting as the making of verbal attacks against members of a racial group. But that's a 1961 definition. However, its other definition says it's the unfair use of statements about race to try to influence the actions or attitudes of a particular group of people. This, I think, applies better. As someone who isn't black, I feel like my opinion doesn't hold much water here. Or at least, not the diamond of the first water. Yeah, I went there. But for me, since the series creator, who is white, made a big deal of wanting a diverse cast and colorblind casting, a lot of the hype surrounded the casting of black people in these particular roles, who are white in the book. I think certain expectations were set, and whether intentionally or not, about what it means to cast black people in historically white roles. Hence, the issue of race baiting. Was that an issue for me? No, but I'm not black, and I'm not the one who may or may not be baited. So what I say isn't exactly something you can hang your hat on. However, I'll say it anyway. I like the black actors who are playing the characters. In the book, Simon is almost godlike because of how handsome he is. The actor who plays him, really hot. I don't mind that he doesn't have ice blue eyes. Lady Danford, one of my favorite characters because of her interactions with Simon and how fierce she is as a friend and an honorary aunt. She doesn't feature much in the book. Queen Charlotte, who is also not in the book, is great. I especially liked her in that scene with George, who was lucid one moment and then crazed the next, the dinner. I didn't think this at the time I was watching it, but, her character, she must have both pitied him and been afraid for herself because he did threaten her. And what does that threat really mean for her? Is it just for her? Is it for her people? Because Simon says later, during his conversation with Lady Danbury, that their elevation relies on the whims of this madman. That's very true. The late Duke, well, he was just mean. But that part when he gets so mad that Simon can't speak, I sort of understand why he wants a perfect child. It's self-preservation. He says that their situation is precarious, that what they have will only remain theirs as long as they remain extraordinary. I felt that vehemence there. While I don't condone it, after all, he's doing this ranting at a child, his child. I understand the reason behind it. Book OG doesn't have that reason. And I've read a lot of like think pieces about this, as that, you know, that kind of that it parallels what happened in one of the episodes of Scandal, where Olivia Pope's father kind of berates her, like telling her, what are you supposed to be? What are you supposed to be? Twice as good to get half of what, you know, white people have. It's kind of the same. It parallels it, which, you know, makes sense because the creator of Scandal happens to be the producer of Bridgerton. It's a Shondaland production. Anyway, the series kind of followed the book. There were certain departures, but it really didn't bother me. For the most part, it really did, you know, stay as faithful as it could be to the book. For those of you who have not seen and or read the book and don't want any spoilers, leave now. Okay, so the first 9 minutes, more or less, in the series don't actually appear in the book, but it does a good job of setting up this world. We're introduced to the Featheringtons and the Bridgertons. In the first book, the Featheringtons don't really feature as much. Also, the Baron is dead in the book. Then there's Marina Thompson, the Featheringtons' distant cousin, not in the book. Then there's Lord Anthony, Viscount Bridgerton, and his mistress's amorous activities, also not in the book, the mistress and the amorous activities. But I suppose it's there to give us a glimpse of his character, you know, that he's a player. Also in the book, Daphne has come out, as in debuted, for nearly 2 seasons. In the Netflix series, it's actually her first time, hence the presentation to the Queen. Lady Danbury's ball is in the book, but Daphne's entrance, which causes a stir due to her being proclaimed as flawless by the Queen. And did you think I'd forgotten about Lady Whistledown? Of course not, especially when she's voiced by Julie Andrews. Lady Whistledown as a diamond of the first water doesn't happen in the book. So while book Daphne was by no means unattractive, no one was dazzled by her beauty, stunned into speechlessness by her presence. That's how she describes herself in the book. Then there's how they met. In the series, Daphne bumps into Simon accidentally, trying to escape Nigel Barbrook. In the book, it's a little complicated, or not really complicated, just the timelines are different. So in first, there's the when and where, and really how their grand scheme is concocted. In the Netflix series, it happens at Vauxhall Gardens, where Simon overhears Daphne and Nigel Barbrook arguing. Then he discovers them after Daphne hits Lord Barbrook when he tries to assault her. Then Simon concocts a scheme with the dramatic cutaways of them joining the crowd as they watch the fireworks. So in the book, this actually happens at Lady Danbury's ball, which we see in the series. The ball. The scene with Barbrook does happen, but it's at the ball, off a corner. It's how Daphne and Simon actually met. Anyway, it's a whole cover-up. They leave the unconscious Barbrook and they go back to the ballroom separately. Simon meets Daphne's brothers and they end up introducing him to Daphne, and both Daphne and Simon agree to pretend that they've never met before. Anyway, Simon gets all these looks from Lady Featherington and the other mamas and feels the need to escape. He then asks Daphne to dance. This is where and when they concoct the scheme.